When was the best time for the southern border?
Well, again, not taking politics into a play of it, but it's a matter of fact. It happened under President Trump.
Oh, really?
Yeah. We had the Border Patrol in May is going to be 100 years old. We're celebrating the 100-year anniversary, the centennial anniversary of the Border Patrol. We were started in 1924, May 28, 1924. And, what I like to tell people is while President Trump, when he was candidate Trump, campaigned on build the wall, okay? But the wall was so much more than a wall to us Border Patrol agents. It was, the actual steel, the wall that we physically needed, but it was the sensors, the cameras, the technology piece that came with it, and the access roads. And that is a culmination of that, at the time, a 95-year-old agency. That's the culmination of somebody like me who had at the time, 22, 23 years in, who has worked his career saying, hey, we need more requirements. Every president that I worked under, to include Clinton, I was hired under Clinton, had leaned forward on border security. Now, clearly, President Bush we had 9/11 happen, so there was a lot of focus on national security, border security. We started really updating a lot of our infrastructure in the forms of barriers, whether it was pedestrian barriers or vehicle barriers, so people couldn't drive through the desert. But the technology packages, all that started building and gaining under President Bush. We also doubled the size of the Border Patrol. There was only 5,000 of us in the early 2000s.
Wow.
We went up to 10,000 by the end of 2010, I think it was. And now we got up to close to 21,000, then we're back down. Obama built a lot of wall. A lot of people don't remember, or some do, some don't, but there was a big push going into Obama's second term. He wanted comprehensive immigration reform, and the Republicans said, well, you give us border security, you build us our fence, you secure the border, we'll give you immigration reform. And so he did a lot of—
That's what Obama said.
Yeah. And he built a lot of wall. He did a lot to secure the border. Then they got into arguing definitions of secure and control, and the whole thing kind of fell to pieces. And so he went with executive actions and really started creating his own immigration policies, and just kind of shut down a lot of the security apparatus that was being built.
Like what? What kind of policies was he? So
a lot of it was he started which isn't a bad thing, is that DACA, the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals. Basically, anybody that had been in the country prior to January 1st, 2014, we would defer prosecution. So that's a pull factor, because then people get to come in and then they claim. There's a lot of fraud involved with that. So there was a big mass of people started showing up at the border because they're like, hey, we've been here, and it's very difficult to kind of explain. But at the end of the day, when you have lack of consequences, when you're encouraging people to come in or they're going to get to stay, you start seeing this big push of people. So
our walls are falling apart.
So, well, hey, you know what? So is the southern border,
right?
So we started seeing this big influx, right? We had a bunch of people, unaccompanied children showing up, again, literally unaccompanied minors at the border that was overwhelming the system. Family units, mainly from Central America and Mexico, showing up under Obama. That's what I think motivated President Trump to say, hey, we got to secure the border and we got to build a wall. So getting back to what candidate Trump ran off of, very easy to say, build the wall. I could get a big crowd going.
Make Mexico pay for it.
Yeah, all that stuff, right? All those great talking points. It really kind of ginned up his following.
Oh, yeah. Got base, people fired
up.
Oh,
yeah. There was bumper stickers. There was all that. Well, when he became president, it took a little bit of while, but the transition team's like, hey, there's more to it than just building the wall. Wall is going to slow them down, but we actually need the technology, we need the personnel, we need policies, all that stuff. And he had I would say a not so. He had the House, but they weren't really supporting a lot of the things he was doing. There was all that infighting going on, and then he lost the majority. So he struggled at getting the appropriations, and he made a bunch of emergency declarations. And again, build the wall was a slogan. But it was so much more to us Border Patrol agents. it was years of requirements that are finally going to be met. So let the politics and the media do all the talking, but for us, we were actually seeing results of our needs being met. We started seeing, I think there was just over 570 miles of new wall, 30-foot wall put up. We had technology in the form of lights, camera, fiber optic sensor systems. All this stuff was like whiz bang that was working for us. We were loving it. Access roads. A lot of people don't realize that we don't have access to some of the areas of our border because it's like a Jeep trail, or it's a dirt road. But then a monsoon season, big old storms come in, flash floods, it wipes away. There'll be weeks before we can get to repair it. So all weather roads was important. At that point, I would say the end of 18 into 19, starting 20, so late 19 into 20, things were all coming to play. The steel walls had been put up. Technology was turned on. We were deploying more and more assets out there. We had policies like the Migrant Protection Protocol, which is remaining in Mexico. That was closing the asylum loopholes. We were prosecuting target areas that were, putting consequences to repeat offenders. All that was making sense. And just to kind of back that up with some numbers, in 2019, the Border Patrol arrested 905,000 people, all right? 905,000 arrests. That's approximate. 2020, it dropped to 405,000. We shut that down. I mean, we had a 100% decrease. I mean, we went from just over 900,000 to just over 400,000.
Wow.
That's why I say it was one of the most secure borders we've ever had. Was right in there.
It dropped because the wall was there, because of the barrier people couldn't get through.
And that was one part of it, and the technology, basically the enforcement apparatus that was out there. But it was the policy. There was all the people that were coming over here and getting in the United States, turning themselves over to us and claiming asylum. So that Migrant Protection Protocol said, fine, if you're going to claim asylum, we'll put you in the queue, but you're supposed to claim asylum in the first asylum country that you come to. So if you go to Mexico, which is an asylum country, and you pass through it and then you get here, you can wait in the line for asylum here, but you're going to wait in Mexico. So we sent them back. And literally within a couple days of that going live, the numbers just dropped because people realized, well, they just closed that loophole. Because people were flying from all over the world, passing through multiple countries, getting to the United States, coming into where they could turn themselves in, where we hadn't completed wall construction, and then claiming asylum when we were processing. And okay, fine. When they claim asylum, we have to let them go for a hearing. But under the Migrant Protection Protocol, we did an initial screening and said, fine, you can be in the queue, but you're going to go back to Mexico and wait.
Right.
So we sent them back, and they realized, well, this is not what I was promised by the smuggling organization.
Right.
So that remain in Mexico is what everybody called it. It was called the Migrant Protection Protocol. That and some other agreements with the cooperative agreements with other countries really kind of put a big kibosh on, this smuggling network that was bringing people in, taking advantage of the loopholes on the asylum claims. And that, I mean, those numbers tell that story because, getting back to the question, that's where it was the most secure because we had the infrastructure deployed and continued construction backed by strong policies that said, hey, if you do make it through these gaps, because remember, these are all people that entered the United States illegally. You got arrested. During the processing, we asked you if you had fear of return. You go, yes, okay. Why do you have fear of return to your home country? Well, I'd like asylum. Okay. You can wait for it in Mexico. And when they realized that's not the bill of goods that they were told was going to happen, people stopped coming. They stopped coming, and those numbers just dropped.